Hi, this is Dave, Dave's Vintage Baseball Cards, and you notice I always have this painting in the background here. A friend of mine, William Quigley, painted this for me. He likes baseball cards and stuff like that, so we did a trade. And here you see the painting of that famous 1948 picture of Babe Ruth. And there's a little thing on Lou Gehrig. So the reason I showed you the Lou Gehrig and the Babe Ruth up on that painting of mine is because today we're going to talk a little bit about the pre-war cards. Now when I'm talking about pre-war cards, I'm talking primarily about cards from pre-World War II, and I'm usually referring to cards in the 30s up to the early 40s, because during the war years there was very little that was produced at all. You also have strip cards and stuff like that from the 20s, and cards from just after the turn of the century, the T cards and caramel cards from like the 1908 through about 1914 era. But right now we're going to talk about the pre-war, and aside from next to the 19th century and those T cards and caramel cards, the pre-war are very interesting. There's a lot of different issues, and they're some of my favorite cards.
I'm going to move through this pretty quickly because I've got an awful lot of cards. For starters, you see a Ruth Gehrig ball, nice example of that. Two of the big guys from the 1930s there. You see an issue, the 1933 tattoo cards, the R305s. They measure 2 by 2 1/4, and they're a nice colorful issue. And we get into the Goudeys. All the Goudy cards, the standard cards, measure 2 3/8 by 2 7/8. You have the 1933s, the R319s. There's 240 cards in that set. 2 Gehrigs, 4 Ruths, and just loaded with stars and Hall of Famers. The 34s, the Goudeys, there you see a Ruth and a Gehrig. I'm sorry, no Ruth in that set. 2 Gehrigs in that set. There's 96 cards. The high numbers are pretty tough in that issue. The 1935, the 4 and 1s, there's a Ruth in there, but no Gehrig. It's 36 cards. And on the back of these, they have puzzle pieces. You can make 2 puzzles out of these. They're the R321s. The 1936 Goudeys, which there's 25 cards in that set, and they have like game pieces on the back with game situations. The R322s, they're kind of fun. You can get Hank Greenberg and a couple other big names in there. 1937, you have the R342, the Goudey thumbnails. You can kind of make a little movie out of those like you might have seen in the old arcades. The 1938 Goudey is kind of a cartoon type of a caricature. The R323s, there's 48 cards in that set. They're skip numbered. They start at card number 241. It's quite an expensive Joe DiMaggio card in that set. And then we come to some of the premiums. The 1935 Goudey premiums, you'd send in 10 wrappers. These cards measured 5.5 by 9. They were like photographs, glossy photographs, and as you can imagine, pretty hard to get because a lot of them got destroyed. You see I have a R313 1936 National Chicle fine pen. They were in-store premiums with blank backs. They measured 3 1/4 inches by 5 3/8. The R303B Goudey cards from 1939. These were premiums, 24 cards. They were the V3. Oh, okay, I'm sorry, 24 card set there. Then you have the 1937 O-Pee-Chee die cuts, 40 card set, V300s. I'm sorry, V300s, and they were Canadian issue. They had printing in English and French on the back of those cards. Then staying with die cuts, you have the 1934 through 1936 batter-ups, 192 card set, I believe, the R318s, and they're kind of a colorful, different color backgrounds are kind of a neat set too. There's some short prints, so the high numbers are a little more valuable in those. Then we go to the play ball cards. These all measure 2.5 inches by 3 1/8, and you have them in 1939, 1940, and 1941. The 39s and the 40s are black and white. Joe DiMaggio and Ted Williams would be the main players in these sets. 1939 has Ted Williams rookie card. 41 is kind of a smaller set, 72 cards in there with all 3 of the DiMaggios, Vince, Dom, and Joe. 1940 Cincinnati, one of their team issues, a 35 card set, popular with Cincinnati collectors, commemorating their World Series victory. Then in 1934 through 1936, the Diamond Star cards are 307, 327. It's a 108 card set, but with all the different variations, you could get 170 different. They measured 2 3/8 by 2 7/8, colorful cards, as you can see. And there's an awful lot of big names, Hall of Famers and stars in there. Then we get to the National Chickle football cards, 36 card set featuring Bronco Nagurski and Knute Rockne. These measure 2 3/8 by 2 7/8, colorful. There's 36 cards in the set. The last 12 are very difficult to get, so they're kind of tough. You're going to pay higher prices for those things. Then we get to the hockey cards. There's an image of a Hamilton Gum card from the early 30s. And then you have some 1933 Ice Kings. It's a nice set there. 1933 O-Pee-Chees. You see I have a Moran's up there. 1933 Sports Kings. These had all sports: hockey players, golfers, baseball players, football players, you name it. You see we have 19 pictures of 1936 O-Pee-Chee die cuts. And then there's the larger O-Pee-Chee cards, 1939 and 1940. These measured 5 by 7, had a designation of the V301s-1 and V301-2. And there you don't see them very often. They're kind of difficult to get also. Anyway, so this is a small sampling of the cards, the type of cards that you could get in the 1930s and 40s. And kind of an interesting group of cards there. We're always interested in picking up cards like this. If you have any questions about these type of cards, you have some you might want to sell, you want to buy some, try to finish sets. Most of this stuff is listed up on our website. You can see the website address has been on the banners throughout this video and will be at the end. So just give us a holler if you want to talk about these, or drop by the website and take a look and see what we've got. Thanks.
Well, I hope you enjoyed our little show about pre-war baseball cards. Now that you've seen it and you've got our website address and contact information, what are you waiting for? Come on down and check out the site. There's a lot more images and issues there that I either forgot to mention or didn't have time to mention. So we'll look for you at Dave's Vintage Baseball Cards. See you soon.